According to the Environmental Protection Agency, food waste and packaging account for nearly 45% of trash sent to U.S. landfills. U.S. restaurants generate 11.4 million tons of organic trash each year. The average family of 4 throws away $1,500 a year in wasted food. While these numbers can be overwhelming, plenty of people are finding creative ways to not only recycle packaging, but to upcycle food byproducts. In Detroit, a city of invention and reinvention, recycling, reuse, upcycling, and salvage are not new. I'm Amanda Saab. I was born and raised in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn is home to the oldest mosque in the United States, the American Muslim Society Mosque built in 1938, and the largest mosque, the Islamic Center of America, which is the one I go to. Like most in the United States, whether going back one generation or several, my family are immigrants. We came for jobs, for opportunity, for safety, and for a place to call home. My grandparents owned a grocery store, and I helped them sell produce on the weekends. I am a baker, and I am a mother. My love for cooking grew as I baked with my mother and my grandmother. In the kitchens of my childhood, and in the tradition of eating halal, food was and is sacred. I share that with my own daughter, Hannah. Why fill landfills when we can fill plates and bellies, stretch budgets, and share our abundance? With the help of my friends in the Detroit food community, I'm going to make food, not waste. Comfort. A cup of coffee, favorite blanket on a cold day, a cozy nook to read and relax, family dinners. Comfort is a consolation in a time of trouble. Comfort is a feeling of relief or encouragement. Comfort is contented well-being. Comfort is safety, security, and welcome feelings of warmth. No matter where you come from, food is inextricable from feelings of comfort. For those of us fortunate to have enough to eat, comfort is easy. In the United States, 40% of all food grown and produced is never eaten. How can we salvage food in our own kitchens and communities to provide a little more comfort to others? We can start by seeing what's happening at Plex in Southwest Detroit, co-owned by Alessandra Carreon, her husband Drew McUsick, and their close friend Nathan Hannon. When thinking about comfort and food, for many Americans, the first thing that comes to mind is pizza. Detroit pizza has a distinct style from New York and Chicago-style pies. Opened in 2017, Plex goes even further back, to the old country, specifically Italy. The daughter of an Italian mother and a Filipino father, Plex co-founder Alessandra Carreon grew up on several different continents and eventually found her way to Detroit. As a restaurateur, Alessandra values community, as evidenced by Plex's intent to shift to a worker-owned business model. Plex also honors the people and history behind the cuisine. Plex strives for sustainability, while serving the only pizza in the city of Detroit to earn the Verace Pizza Napoletana designation. I'm going to see how they do it and maybe get a slice of pizza.
Hi, Amanda.
Hey, Ale, how are you?
I'm great. Are you here to pick up a pizza?
Well, I'm actually here to talk to you.
Awesome.
Hopefully we'll get some pizza later,
Great.
But I've heard so much about Plex and your sustainability model and how you guys really work on preventing food waste, and I want to learn more about that.
For Plex, minimizing food waste isn't only about committing to our sustainability mission. It's really about good business because it results in cost reductions and efficiencies that we wouldn't otherwise have. So yeah, I'm excited to explore that today with you.
Tell me more about your background too and how you got started in the restaurant and pizza world, because when people think pizza in Detroit, it's not necessarily this style of pizza, so I want to learn and explore more about that.
So I actually moved to Detroit with my husband about 8 years ago from Seattle. So and the main thing that attracted us to the city really were the people. So Detroiters, the energy, the architecture. We were in a transition point, and so we were ready to move and now call Detroit home. And I guess to add to that, I grew up in a bunch of different countries. My father's from the Philippines, my mother's from Italy. So as a daughter of immigrants, I didn't really identify with a single hometown. But the closest thing probably is Naples, which is where my mom is from and where this pizza comes from. So yeah, that's kind of the roots of the story began with my own culture and my identity.
And tell me about your Italian, Filipino background, how that influenced food and culture and how you how you cook and what you serve here.
Food is really like the backbone of almost everything I do, and certainly at Plex, the culture of the food influences how we do business and why we exist. So from my father's side, the Filipino influence is definitely seen in everything from, how colonization affects the way Filipinos enjoy food today, to, the types of ingredients we use. And so recognizing the story of the food and the story of the people behind the food is something that I bring, as intersectionality into Plex here. And then as far as the pizza itself goes at Plex, we make, prepare, and serve a very specific kind of pizza called Vera Pizza Napoletana, which is certified pizza as they've been making it in Naples for hundreds of years. So those two things really combine in terms of respecting the people, respecting the story of a country, of a place, and a culture, and then delivering that to our customers who enjoy it with us.
That's so special that you're able to uphold this hundreds-year-old tradition and serve this in Detroit. Like, how lucky are we to be able to have this pizza made in this traditional way available to us?
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Can you tell me some of your favorite food memories?
From the beginning, food is, forms some of my best and favorite memories. So I guess from, if I were to kind of think about it in terms of my families and spending time in Italy or spending time in the Philippines. So growing up in Italy, I remember Sunday lunches that lasted for hours that my nonna or grandmother would cook with the help of the whole family. And really, just the idea of being at the table with the people I love, with multi-course meals that were always delicious, is just imprinted in my heart and my memory as something that, I cherish and want to recreate. But then, I guess the more fun fact too is my family in Naples actually had a trattoria and a pizzeria. So growing up, with my cousins or friends, we would play in the kitchen basement and, we had salame hanging around our heads and prosciutto and pasta. And, there's really just sort of a good fortune in being able to say as a kid that you could order anything off the menu for dinner every day. So I recall that as well. But, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, on my Filipino side, when we go to the Philippines, it's just like endless seafood buffet, tropical fruit buffet.
And it's like gathering and family and just
Absolutely.
like abundance and sharing with
Yes.
one another.
Always.
I love that. That reminds me of, my family would gather pre-COVID at my grandmother's house every Saturday. And we just be there for hours, just talking, eating.
Yeah.
And there'd be like 30, 40 people in like small basement, just like enjoying time and food together. And as I learned more about Plex and your sustainability model, how can people apply some of these like tips and tricks for preventing food waste in their own homes, and even maybe in their own food businesses as well?
I guess I can explain a little bit about how sustainability plays into our business sort of as a core operating principle. So we're an LLC, so a low profit LLC, but that doesn't mean that we're not striving for profit. It means that in the state of Michigan, our structure allows us to pursue a social mission as well. So we call ourselves a triple bottom line business, which means that, we can pursue profit, but we're equally interested in social responsibility as well as environmental stewardship. So from the social responsibility side, one of the things that's very core and important to us is our journey in converting to a worker-owned company. So that means that we look to hire locally. So we look to hire Detroiters who can be part of our ownership model, and then redistribute any wealth that the restaurant may generate back to the workers. So trying to think about how we contribute to a more equitable form of economic development rather than just concentrating profit in the hands of one or two owners. So we are on this journey and trying to figure out how to do that as best as we can. And then from an environmental side, it's really embedded in everything we do. It's very subtle too. Even the fact that we're in this patio in the back, there's green infrastructure that you can't see, but all of the rainwater from our building is actually diverted from the storm sewer and goes back into the earth beneath us. So you can't see it, but it's there. And when it comes to waste of food, we apply the same principles. So first we try as much as we can to eliminate all food waste, right? So order what you can and make sure you use it. But when that doesn't happen, how do you reduce that waste? So it's everything from, sending food scraps to compost with Midtown Composting. We use it at home as well. That service, Midtown Composting, picks up our food scraps. To thinking about ways that we can, reuse the food scraps in practical ways. And same thing at home. Reviving leftovers. In my case, is something that I love to do.
That's wonderful. I love that you talk about kind of like the green sustainability and like the things that people might not necessarily see that your business is doing, and that really should give them that push and encouragement to to, getting the best pizza, one, but also like in supporting your business because you're thinking about the people that live in this community and how you're going to really share the economic benefits of having such a great business with others. And that's like truly something I admire just from a personal and from a business standpoint. And I think that should definitely be applauded.
Thank you.
And I love that you're able to use that same kind of composting service at home. What are some ways that you revive leftovers?
Yeah, so there are many, and again, I draw from both of my cultures when I think about, how do I make sure that there's no wasted food. But for me, it's everything from, if we do have a dish that's left over, I can combine it with other leftover dishes to create something new. I do that all the time, and it's very improvised. So it's like you're eating something different. Or even as a baker or a pizza maker, there are ways to make sure that, perhaps things that didn't get applied, like flour for dusting in one dish, you can use again, especially since we bake often or we cook frequently. And then of course there's the idea of using food scraps to create something that you can use later, like a broth or a stock or breads. So I just always try to think as much as possible in a closed loop way. So if you imagine nothing really is waste, then everything presents an opportunity.
That's wonderful. I'm really excited to learn more about how we can repurpose basil that might be going bad, especially like as we are entering like this Michigan fine summer with all our extra herbs in our garden. We might have some basil that are turning, and I think Nate's gonna teach me how to do that.
Yeah, he's ready for you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey Nathan.
Hey.
I was just talking to Ali outside and learning about the sustainable ways you guys run your business, and I'm so excited to get cooking. So what are we making today?
So today we're gonna be making pesto. Yes, we get to work with basil.
Yum.
It's one of our top ingredients that we buy here. Between tomato sauce, mozzarella, basil. Those are quintessential things. But yeah.
So tell me about basil that's going brown. Most people see it and toss it.
Yeah, so a lot of people, like if you see basil here, like it's starting to go brown in the leaf itself, it's really fallen limp there. So this isn't bad yet. You can still use this. Just because it's getting to that point where it's not as pretty as another basil leaf doesn't mean we have to throw it away.
Right.
Right. Or even throw it away in general, right? So you can always compost it or make pesto.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And the fun thing about pesto is with basil leaves like that, we use such amount of oil, olive oil in particular, we will actually cover the top of it, as you'll see in a little bit. So that oxygen can't even get to it, so it can't spoil anymore. And then you can freeze it, you can refrigerate it, however you want to keep it at that point. But if you refrigerate it, it should last you about 7 days before it starts to get weird. Yeah.
Wow. So basil that's like browning that people might have normally just tossed out, they can keep for up to 7 days in the fridge or pop it in the freezer.
Yep.
Using oil to help as a preservation mechanism.
Yeah, and fortunately enough, pesto requires a decent amount of olive oil. So yeah, we're in luck, yeah.
All right, should we hop into the recipe?
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Is this your own recipe? Is it a traditional recipe?
So we started out originally when we made pesto here with the traditional recipe that I got from Alessandra's family. And it started out with either Pecorino Romano cheese or Parmigiano Reggiano. And we had, a lot of our customer base are, vegans, so the cheese wasn't, adequate, but they still wanted pesto. So I had to come up with another recipe that has the creaminess of cheese, but doesn't, have the cheese. So pesto originally requires pine nuts along with those two cheeses, either one. And so I substituted walnuts for pine nuts. And to kind of make up for some savory bits, we always have a little bit of leftover poblano peppers, or like the tops of an onion that we may not put on a pizza because they're not the prettiest parts or anything like that. Or let's say we, cut most of the meat of the pepper and we're just left over with the little top. That can help add savory notes in the pesto too. So, but this way it's a win-win. We can feed vegans, we can feed non-vegans, everything.
And you're preserving food and not throwing it away. So
Right.
really you're eliminating food waste by using these onion scraps, the poblano tops.
Right.
Who would have thought to throw them into pesto?
Yeah, this is just kind of like a free take at that, a free stab at trying to get a little bit more back. And being the fact that we're a business that's trying to get to our break-even point and trying to get to worker ownership. Once we reach that break-even point, it makes it really great for us because we're able to kind of just get a second take at trying to recoup some funds. But yeah.
Wonderful. All right, should we get started into the recipe?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've prepped out There's a bunch of basil in here with salt and pepper that we use, and walnuts. And when you're making pesto, if you're using cheese, you know, your recipe may differ, but with this one in particular, it's like a 1-to-1 with basil and walnuts. So like the same amount of basil in weight you'd want to use in walnuts. So like 100 grams of basil, 100 grams of walnuts, right? So that's here, and it's obviously a lot less walnuts than you'd see, right? But then just to give it a little bit of sharpness, a little bit of freshness, you also throw a couple cloves of garlic in there. And you can go more if you want the heat of fresh garlic, but if you don't want the heat, you don't have to go all that way. And then the last thing is gonna be olive oil, and we're gonna add that once I throw this in here. So I'll get this in here right now, and we'll get blending.
Wonderful.
You know? Yeah, so this was always, like you always want to wash your basil first, you know? You want to make sure there's no little creepy crawlies hiding around there. But so you can see there's a little bit of moisture from when we washed it this morning. That's actually going to help with making the pesto itself, because a little bit of moisture in a blender like this is always a win. And then so from here, I'm going to weigh it up, so because I want to get the right amount of olive oil in here, okay? So olive oil is almost a 2-to-1 in this circumstance. So it's going to be a decent amount of olive oil. It's going to be around, which I split our normal recipe in half. And so yeah, we are there, and we're feeling good. You feeling good? I feel good.
I feel great. I'm so excited. I already smell like the garlic, and the basil's so fragrant itself.
Yeah. So like I personally use an immersion blender when making it, but at home you may not have one, so that's why we have this here today. So
wonderful.
Yeah, we're gonna get started. And that green color, everything is super gorgeous. And so now it's nice and liquidy, and so now we can add a little bit of savory notes to it, you know? So when we cook poblanos, one of our top pizzas is called the Nicolette, and it requires a lot of roasted poblanos, and we'll use the majority of the pepper, but we're left over with this little bit. So we can always throw this in here just to kind of get it a little bit more savory. But yeah, so give that a go around, you know? Yeah. And I'm just going to let it go for a little bit, see if we can really get there. Maybe step it up, you know?
Definitely.
It's not quiet.
Not at all.
No, it's
We'll
not.
see headphones for this part.
Yeah. Now we're just going to get this out of here. It's like closest to our favorite part.
Smells incredible.
Yeah. If I happen to be making pesto that day, or the reverse margarita happens to be on our seasonal menu at that time, I will hide in a corner, eat some warm bread with this pesto.
I also
As a little break, you know, you
that.
you gotta take those breaks.
Let's get into the pizza. I'm so excited to see this part.
Yeah, so we're the 701st certified Neapolitan pizzeria in the world. A kind of cool thing, we're the first in Detroit, second in the state, and 98th in the country. And really what that means is we're the 701st pizzeria in the world that makes the pizza the same way they used to do it in Naples, you know, back to centuries ago, right? So.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And I got to learn from a third-generation pizzaioli, so someone whose grandfather had a pizzeria, dad had a pizzeria, and then he took over the pizzeria, and he's opened up multiple now. But he does a thing called School de Pizzaioli, which is like School of the Pizza Maker. And we actually flew him over here, and he worked with me for about 10 days, and we made pizza together. And that's where we got this little term, make it fly, up on the wall, which in Italian is falla ballare, which we can say together. Falla ballare. Yeah, you nailed it. And so yeah, when we're going to make pizzas, I have this like what looks like a drywall putty knife. And I'm gonna get a little flour on here. I lift it up, and I have all these dough balls. These have been sitting out at room temperature, ready to kind of like be made. You can see they're growing a little bit. They're starting to form some bubbles and really space themselves out. I'm gonna put some flour on the crevice that's connecting them, and I'm gonna cut it away. And then I'm gonna do a little bit over here where it was also cut. And then now I'm going to just scoop it up very gently, and then I'm gonna drop it upside down on this bed. And you're like, Nate, that doesn't look circular. Oh my gosh, there's a fix for this. You throw flour over the top, we get it going. And just like how Fabio taught me how to make the style pizza, we worked with a guy named Salvatore to get this oven built. And this is a very typical Neapolitan oven. And as you can see, it's splashed with Pewabic tiles around the bottom. We even have a little Celtic knot over on the left for me. What I'm gonna be doing now is flying the pizza, or in other words, falla volare, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just gonna get it out to size, and you're gonna see it's really quickly
Wow.
gonna get out to 12 inches. So that right there of me tossing it is making it fly.
That's
right?
beautiful.
None of the like, wow, wow, right? Yeah, that's just for show. It doesn't really do much. But now the fun part is the pesto that we made. So I get to throw it on here and spread it around, and you can tell it looks creamy, right?
It looks so creamy, like there's cheese in there.
Right, but there's not.
I know, we made it together.
I know, right? Yeah, and it's really a beautiful thing, and this is like one of my favorite parts. And because of how much olive oil is in here, I don't even have to add olive oil to this pizza because the oil is going to come out of this pesto while we're cooking it. Pretty much a beauty there. And then for the reverse margarita, we throw on some cherry tomatoes.
Wow.
And these are all locally grown cherry tomatoes. And then, last but not least, fresh mozzarella. And so this is fresh mozzarella that we get here. It comes in logs called ceppanelli, and it's just a really beautiful product, and we're really happy to work with it. It's tough finding really good fresh mozzarella in America. In Naples, they use bufala, made from water buffalo milk. And so that's a little different there. It's much creamier milk than just standard cow's milk, but this is the closest thing without shipping buffalo over here. So we found second best, you know. But
I love it.
yeah, so now I'm gonna take this into the oven and we're gonna cook it. And it's gonna cook in 90 seconds due to how hot this oven is. A pretty fun thing to see because you can literally just with your eyes watch it cook. And,
That is so quick.
And blister, yeah. So I'll get it in here. And so with this oven, when it was built, we threw coins and dollars and things like that in the very bottom of it to help give us good luck in the nature of making pizza out of it. So wish us luck, right? But yeah, so once it's in there, it maintains that shape. I did good. I like ripped the tablecloth out from underneath it kind of thing with this to get it in. Yep, and you can start to see it rising now.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's starting to lift up, and it's always such a pretty thing to watch. It's starting to freckle and blister on the other side. So now I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna start to rotate it, and I'm just gently gonna go underneath it till I have the entire pizza here with me. Bring it over, and you can already see it blistering up on this side here.
And if someone wants to make something like this at home, they can totally get creative with the toppings, use what they have.
Yep. So like with us, making pesto with walnuts and adding little bits of poblanos and onions to add some savory notes to it, that all comes into play. And another thing, if you don't get to all that produce, like we compost a lot of our produce that like we can't get to. So whether it's the stems of basil, or things like that after we pick the leaves off, or if it's the bread itself that didn't get eaten, or if it's cherry tomatoes that turned bad, or any of those, like we compost those, and we partner with a couple different companies to then have it industrially composted. So that's breads, meats, cheeses, all of that stuff. But as you can see here, the reverse margarita is done. It cooked very quickly.
So quick.
Right? And so now I'm gonna drop it on a plate, or cut it up, and you get to eat some.
Yay!
So, yeah.
So excited to try it.
Absolutely, yeah. We're having the real deal. So,
Yay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. The smells
I know.
incredible. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
I love that it's called the reverse margarita. I know exactly what you mean by it.
Yeah, if I held the regular margarita right up next to it, you wouldn't even know. Yeah. Yeah, so it's really a beautiful thing. So I think it's time for you to eat some. Yeah.
So crunchy.
I know. It's like crunchy but soft. There's like air bubbles in the crust, which is what makes it so special. But yeah. It might be a little hot too. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The pesto is out of this world.
Right. You wouldn't know it doesn't have cheese in it because it's covered in cheese, right? So.
And the dough.
You don't like it?
I love it. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like so yeasty, and you get like a nice
Yep.
chew,
Yep.
but it's still soft.
Right. Yep. Those air bubbles inside the crust are where it's at. And in Naples, to tell if a pizza, if the dough is risen too long, they'll literally cut it open and like rip the crust open and smell it. And if you smell yeast or any sort of like almost smells like beer, then they know it's like, oh, you maybe took it a little too long. And that's where, you know, they could have turned it into bread or what have you. And, you know, we actually sell like loaves of bread that are ready to bake for you to bake at home, or, you know, we'll also bake bread here for some of our side plates and things like that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So little goes, you know, like you can always turn something into something else.
This is probably the best sliced pizza I've ever had. I'm
Really?
sorry. I'm like,
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. I mean, less talking, more eating. No. But yeah, it's it's a delicious thing. I mean, I'm just staring at it and I'm thinking to myself, I didn't eat breakfast, but look at this thing, right?
you need to have a slice.
Okay. Well, I will. I'm a huge fan of the fold. Right? Yeah. Just it makes me think I'm gonna make less of a mess. You know.
Probably.
Yeah. It's hot.
Oh, hey, Amanda.
Hey,
How was the pizza?
absolutely incredible. The best pizza I've ever had.
Whoa. Thank you. What did you enjoy about it?
Oh, the pesto was so flavorful and so creamy and rich. I was like so surprised to learn that there's like no cheese in it.
Yep.
And all of that is from the walnuts, which I love as an alternative. I'm not a huge fan of pine nuts, despite my Lebanese ancestry.
Good to know. Yeah, that's something that, again, the creativity of Nate has helped bring to us, which is exactly that. The traditional Italian pesto has pine nuts, has Parmigiano or cheese. So, you know, we find a way to make sure that lots of people can enjoy it.
You're so passionate about food and pizza. How else does food nourish you?
Food is so central to my identity. It nourishes me in so many ways. It nourishes my soul, my heart, my mind, and I can find connections, you know, to all parts of my life. In a way, my career is tied to it through Plex. The way I enjoy time with my family and friends and building community, and even if I think about it in terms of systems change, right? There's so much, you know, the accessibility to food reveals injustice, you know, behind food access, or even the ability to, like we were saying earlier, sort of enjoy a grain of rice, making the difference between being hungry or not. Sometimes it's something that just virtually drives everything I do. And you know, my husband Drew and I, we kind of have two career tracks, I'll call it, right? Like we have jobs outside of Plex, but Plex really is kind of like the reflection of what's in our hearts, and it brings us together. It brings us together with our friends, with, you know, our fellow Detroit neighbors. This particular neighborhood we're in Southwest. So that's, you know, that's my motivation for being, you know, enjoying food, respecting the history of the food that reached me, you know, from the sourcing of ingredients to the plating. Yeah, so for me, food is love.
It's been such a pleasure, like, getting to know you and your story and Nate and Plex, and I can't wait to be back for more incredible Napoli style pizza. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for it.
Of course. Yeah, can't wait to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Part of the reason many of us discard food is that we have conflicting information telling us food is bad before it's actually bad, and then we don't know how to use it. We talked with Alessandra and Nathan and met Drew, the co-owners of Plex, in the first part of the show. Nathan gave us the scoop. Slightly brown basil is still good basil, and oil, like sugar and salt, is a useful preservative. Is it a coincidence that many comfort foods include sugar, salt, and oil? My friends Brittiany Peeler and the Genevieve Squires have traveled near and far together. Maybe they have the answer. For chefs Brittiany Peeler and the Genevieve Squires, known collectively as Experience Relish, wellness and embracing the whole self are a priority. Brittiany and La Genevieve, or V as I call her, grew up in Michigan. Like many of us, they left for bigger cities and other places. Brittiany served in the Navy, and V earned a food marketing degree from Western Michigan and worked in the food industry. Connecting in Chicago over their love of food, both eventually came home to Detroit, bringing back what they learned and pouring it into Experience Relish. Experience Relish create comfort with globally inspired, locally sourced food, adding their own unique spin. I'm going to see what they've got cooking.
Amanda.
Hey, B.
What's going
Hey,
on?
Brittiany.
What up, though?
What's going on?
You know, just hanging out.
What brings you down here?
I'm meeting with my Detroit food friends to learn how to prevent food waste and salvage things in the kitchen. And I couldn't think of anyone better than you guys because I know you've been learning and exploring and really building your business on sustainability and reducing food waste.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yes, I'm excited to be here and show you some good recipes.
How did you get to a place where you think about food waste and really reducing it?
So we definitely, it's important to make sure we utilize every aspect of the fruit or vegetable, trying ways to just be versatile with what we're utilizing, sourcing locally.
Composting.
Absolutely.
Composting is huge. That's something that, like, in the last year or so, we've gotten really big in.
That's great.
And just like being cognizant of what we are bulk shopping and how we utilize it throughout that time. So just making sure we are staying on top of that.
You guys have such a Detroit story. Tell me about your adventure in cooking and how you got to Relish.
I've actually been around food my entire life, and I just didn't realize it. My grandmother retired from Kroger. My dad was executive chef at different hotels around here. So as a child, I spent my weekends with him ordering room service from hotels.
You fancy.
I tried to be. Sunday, please. And from there, I studied food marketing at Western and moved on to work at a grocery store. And at that grocery store, I learned about sourcing and all different types of ways to cook food in a better way than I had learned when I was a kid. And so I decided to put myself through culinary school. So while I was in Chicago, I did food marketing management in culinary school. And then Britt had just finished, you tell your part.
So I got into the food industry by joining the Navy. I was in college struggling like everybody else in college, and I really needed to make ends meet. So I decided I would join the military. I didn't plan to become a cook in the military.
Wow.
It just kind of happened. And then after that, I became a butcher at the Eastern Market. And I was one of very few female butchers at the Eastern Market. So I learned under that study and just really respected my process in the butchery. And then when V and I worked together at Heinen's.
Called her up, said, hey, you should come to Chicago.
So we worked together in this grocery store that she managed, and I worked in the butcher department or meat department. From there, we just kind of combined skills, and we decided to create Relish. And my dream is to end up to be a physician, but I want to be able to bridge food and health together. So that's the goal.
Beautiful. And I think we talk a little bit about how food really nourishes our body in such a significant way. So I definitely see like the intersectionality of your two passions coming together in that way.
One quote I did see when I was in Chicago, and it says, the health food industry doesn't pay attention to the food industry, and the food industry doesn't pay attention to the health industry. And after seeing that, I was like, okay, it's mind-blowing because a lot of it starts too at the grocery stores. And so Relish for me was really, how do we get people to shop differently first? How do we get them to understand the type of food that they're even buying? And what I've come to now, at first it seemed like it was be overwhelming, but it's literally one person at a time, just sharing. I'm meeting you for the first time. Hey, did you know that turmeric does such great things for your body? And you're like, oh, I actually didn't know that. And I'm like, okay, here's some turmeric. And that's just the momentum that Relish has been building off of.
Building trust, just figuring out a way to earn people trust to try it. And once they try it, they're already there to continue to implement things into their diets that they haven't had.
What are some of your food influences? Like, what influences your style of cooking and the way you guys create different meals?
My influence came from, honestly, wanting more, and lacking that variety of vegetables in the grocery store, lacking that ability to be able to see all of the okras and the different things that you would grow in your garden, but the grocery stores didn't necessarily have it. So that variety lacked. Although we had really great fruit growing up, it just didn't have a lot of vegetables. And if it did, it was repetitive. It was made the same way every time.
Corn.
Not a lot of variety.
Canned spinach. Because let me tell you, the first time I had fresh spinach, I was like, Mom.
Right, like why can't we eat fresh spinach?
It was so much easier to make this fresh spinach than it was to buy that canned spinach.
Or
and most
frozen.
people just don't know.
And it wasn't that you didn't like it, just this is what was available to you. It was feasible, it was cost effective, so you bought it, and you ate what your mom or your grandma prepared for you, because there was no talking back to dinner. You ate what you wanted, or you went to bed hungry.
Or I stuffed it in napkins. But my biggest inspiration. And my grandmother didn't waste anything. Like literally would be scraping the bowl, like so I don't get a lick off that spoon.
We froze gallons of milk, froze loaves of bread. You froze things to preserve it, if you will, trying to prolong the life of it. So
I've actually never heard that. That's very
You didn't?
Frozen milk? No.
No?
yeah, it's a thing.
Oh, it's a thing. It is like a thing.
We always made yogurt. So like when the milk was about to spoil, we make
That's
labneh.
smart.
That's smart.
So that's what we would
super
do, if the milk,
We
we never
definitely
threw it away,
wouldn't trust
but
it.
you'd make labneh.
Did you bake it? Bake the
No, so you just make it yogurt, and then it would last, and then you keep it in the fridge for another month. I know you guys have spent some time in India, really learning their cuisine and cooking. How did you end up there, and why did you choose to go to India?
Honestly, we weren't looking for a specific place. We just kind of found India. There was another food lab member at the time, and they needed some
New
help.
Delhi.
Yes, the New Delhi, and they have a food truck that they run 6 months out of the year here in Michigan, and then 6 months out of the year they go to Goa, India.
Wow.
And they needed help, so we applied, or actually V applied first, and we just felt like it was an opportunity we both needed to be a part of. We both needed to experience, so we both applied, and they accepted us both, and we were there for 4 months.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Life changing.
We thought we wanted to leave within the first 3 days.
Culture shock?
Yes.
It was a culture shock. We were filling buckets with water to like wash ourselves. We were hand washing our clothes.
Everything
And
was
just in the first 4 days, I was like,
What did I get myself into?
okay. And then over time, like how minimal it is there and how fruitful it is there just really changed the
Your
trajectory
perspective,
of
yeah.
just what I thought about food, culture, life itself.
So what are we going to be making today?
Today we're going to make potato and cauliflower, which also translates to aloo gobi in Hindi.
Gobi.
So we call it aloo gobi.
That sounds delicious. Should we head to the kitchen and get started?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Today we have aloo gobi.
Which means potato and cauliflower. Ooh.
This is one of the first dishes that we learned when we were in India, and our roommate showed us how to make aloo gobi. It's a very versatile recipe. Since we've been back home, we've added collard greens and black eyed peas to it.
We're excited to share it with you.
Thank you. And this smells incredible.
Yes. So
What is
that's-
this spice
that's
blend?
The garam masala. So you have turmeric, there's coriander, cumin, chili powder. It's like 13 spices. in
Masala
there.
just translates to
Spices.
Five spice, but you obviously add more to it. So the
smells
5
incredible.
is the rule.
Thank you.
So let's get into the recipe.
Absolutely. So we start off with the masala box, and in the masala box you have ginger, garlic. Those two are variants. That's not what has to be in there.
Okay.
But what has to be in the masala box is red onion or a shallot, cilantro, tomato, and a chili. So we have 2 different types of chili today too, because I have a chef friend in Detroit that actually dried some chilies out for us. So we're gonna add that to it too.
The chef friends always come through. I love
Yeah, I
it.
know. Hey, I dropped a dime for you. I'm like, yes, appreciate you. So we have some ginger here. And if you didn't know, ginger is easy to peel with a spoon. You just take it and peel the skin off of it, and it comes right off.
And for chilies, you want to not use the seeds if you don't like the spice, because you definitely will kick up the heat if you use the insides of the seeds to the chili. Awesome, awesome.
So do you
What
like
I-
spice or not?
I love it, personally.
I'm in the middle. I'm like, hey, can I get medium, please? But can
I
it
don't
be
like
on
it overpowering, though. Like, you want to taste your food, obviously, but I prefer to have it to where it's just mild and in the middle.
But yeah, so mince the garlic. I mean, the ginger and the garlic as much as possible.
And depending on how much you want to make, a gobi recipe can either be a lot or a little. You can stretch it to where 2 people would eat it or your whole family. So
wow.
we're making just enough for us today.
And what are some variations
Ginger,
in
you mean.
vegetables that you could
So
use?
now coming up into the fall, you can use mushrooms.
Whoa.
You can use collards, if you would like, cabbage. The first time I made it at home without Suda, I used cabbage as one of my vegetables. Parsnips will work really good. And if you don't have a nut allergen, you can replace the water with coconut milk.
Ooh.
Or oat milk. I've been playing around with both of them.
And that's like a good way to get some like creaminess and more richness.
Get
too.
richness to it. Excuse me, pardon me.
That sounds delicious. And I love that you can use what's seasonally available. So if you have some root vegetables coming that you're going to be picking and growing here in this Michigan harvest, put them in your...
Put them right here and we'll just call it like a curry.
Yeah.
We'll call it a curry, the mindful waste curry, where anything in the fridge goes.
And that's a good way to make food not waste.
Exactly.
And obviously, all the ends and pieces that we're using and cutting from, we're going to compost for the garden so we can reuse and regrow later.
Wonderful. And there's so many great spaces in Detroit, in the city, for chefs to work in, because we're in like this other kitchen now. And I love that there's so many spaces available.
I love being able to find kitchens that's available like that. It's called a new trend. It's actually ghost kitchens, where they're allowing chefs to have virtual settings within the kitchen. So one commercial kitchen will probably host about 5 restaurants, and you'll get delivery just from that commercial kitchen.
That's brilliant.
Right?
Ghost kitchens. You taught me a new term today. A new recipe and some new insights into the chef scene here in Detroit.
Yes, I think it's just a cool, innovative way to not only be sustainable with how we do business as a restaurant, but also be able to like share our resources and order, I feel like, in more mass quantity when it comes to local farmers and chefs. We can go in together and get the product. Or have our farmers request what we would like for them to cook for us.
That's a really good perspective.
Grow for us.
And like,
cook.
yeah. And just like thinking about like reducing waste overall, as well as in these shared spaces, you can then share the ingredients.
You can share the ingredients. We can ask exactly from the farmer what it is that we're looking for to be cooked. And so those are, as my goal of being in Detroit, is something that I've been trying to be intentional about.
Right, what can I be helping with?
Okay, so I'm gonna have you start and blanch the cauliflower.
All right, how long do we blanch for?
Let's go 2 minutes. Yes, so that's 1 head of cauliflower.
Like you said, you can use a different vegetable that
You can use broccoli.
Oh, broccoli would be good.
And broccoli, if you use broccoli, what I would do is blanch it and only fold that in towards the end.
Okay. So what are some ways you guys think about like preventing food waste in your business?
So right now, well, we do composting. So what I love about the kitchen that we're in, which is Brightmoor, is that you can recycle and you compost right in Brightmoor. So it fits right into what we believe in and what we're trying to do. At home, we compost and recycle. And then right now, we do weekly meal preps. So it's like a secret supper club. And in the secret supper club, I go on KGD menu. I go on their order form, and I order vegetables for the week to cover for the menu. And whatever is left over from the week, I transfer that into the next week's menu.
So you're like incorporating that kind of into your business model for doing your secret meal plans that I didn't even know about.
So Amanda, you just cook really good food over there, and I'm like, she doesn't need this. But if you I can come by, drop you off and deliver you a meal, and you tell me how it tastes. So aloo gobi won't have to be the only thing that you're eating.
And we try to make sure that when we are cooking, we're composting things, we're utilizing it in broths, or we're figuring out a way to use it, in other meals, whether it's that broth or the ends of okra to make, some sort of pickle and brine or things like that. So we try to figure out a way to preserve as much as possible. If we make any sort of jams or pickle anything, and we try to keep things in season, keep it versatile.
It's okay.
So you want me to start the tempering, or?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So you take your base with the tomato, cauliflower, tomato and garlic. And so you want to start with the other one. Eye here, if I can get the right one. Okay, and then we start with our oil.
And what type of oil do you use?
This is an extra virgin olive oil. You can use any kind, really, if it's almond oil, avocado oil, sunflower oil, whichever you prefer. We just use enough just to cover the bottom of the pan.
Wonderful.
So that gets hot there. And then we start with our mustard seeds. That gives us a little crackle pop kind of sensation. And then once it starts to pop open.
The limes is always the finisher that you hit it with at the end of the aloo gobi. But when you sear the lime, it adds this extra element of flavor. So we'll see that when we get towards the end.
Ooh, that's exciting. I've never seen that done.
Alrighty, so we have our mustard seeds and our jeera that'll go in together. It'll get that.
Mandy, you dump it all in there. Dump that all
You
in
sure?
there. Yeah, all
That's
that
a lot.
We actually learned how to talk and communicate with them in India through food.
Wow.
So that just lets me know how powerful food is, because that is what broke down the barrier.
We got some action, guys.
Oh, wow.
It's popping out.
And you already start to smell.
Yeah, it's aromatic. And you don't want to over toast the jeera. And I like to add the onions here.
Cumin seeds themselves add such a nice texture. I love the flavor of cumin.
And it adds a great earthy component to the dish as well.
Definitely.
You want to kind of.
So the important part about this is tomatoes, they need their own time, because they'll end up producing their own juice within there. And that juice is very important to being able to create the rest of the depth
Gotcha.
that's there.
Is it like almost like a pan sauce that's created in there with the
Yeah, it's like a tomato pan sauce. Just gonna have to miss this part, or the rest of it start to burn. That's one thing about it. This recipe is definitely a mise en place recipe,
Right. Because everything moves so quickly.
and your chilies that's at the bottom, you just really don't want those to burn. You don't want the fragrance that you already put in there.
It smells so good. If there's like a vegetable, say they got like in a CSA box or something, and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do with it, you can use it in place of your potato. You can get creative, use like the basic masala components that you guys described, and create something completely unique and original to them.
Even if you have to use canned food, and I say when you use canned food, try to buy like as organic as possible, where it's only like 2 ingredients, salt and water.
Right.
But when you can sub those items in, so that you're now having a cabinetry meal.
Just utilizing what you already have that might be in the back of your pantry that you bought at the beginning of quarantine.
You're like, slide these back up so
Right.
we can use these.
That's what we did when I was growing up.
And now we add in the tomatoes. And I'm gonna let the tomatoes get towards the end, towards the bottom of the pan. Because what they're gonna do is start to add a liquid for us. If you have tomatoes that are on its last leg, those are the best tomatoes to use for this. Even if your potatoes are on their last leg. Actually, if any vegetable is on its last leg, this is a great one to use, because, so when we get to this part where we've added the tomatoes, we want to make sure that we add all of the spices in there as well.
So we're just trying to get it to where the potatoes are cooking now. And then we'll add the water so it'll stew more and cook some more and extract those juices from the tomatoes. And then we can add the cauliflower, because that kind of will simmer into the juices there.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so this could either be water, the coconut milk, vegetable broth, whichever one. But when we're on a budget, we use water.
And obviously you can use chicken broth, things like that, but this is a vegetarian, and so we're doing this water here.
And I start off with 2 cups, just because I want to see how thick the tomato and the gravy. I'll let that steam some more. So then while that's doing that and I'm letting my potatoes cook, I'm gonna go ahead and do this lime that we were talking about.
Show me this trick.
Yes, so just get your skillet really hot, like just really hot. No oil, like just really hot. Need a spatula.
Okay.
Need a spatula, because then it kind of defeats the purpose of the sear, because the skillet will hate on you and take your skin.
Oh,
We don't want that. You know we don't. And Amanda, you want to chop up some some cilantro for
Sure.
our plating?
You got it.
Yeah.
Stems and all.
Stems and all.
All right, you got it.
Stems and all.
And I love that you're not wasting the stems. Many people don't know like the stems of herbs are edible themselves.
They're the most flavorful. I actually like holding the stems for my vegetable broths.
Oh, that's a great way to prevent waste in the kitchen too. So if you're making this dish and you make a lot, because say you have like a ton of potatoes and tomatoes to use, can you freeze the dish once it's done?
Yes, absolutely.
It actually holds over very well.
It does.
It's great the next day with scrambled eggs.
Ooh.
It is.
So this is like super versatile, and you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
really make dinner and then breakfast for the next day as well.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that.
And lunch, obviously.
So then I'm gonna add in cauliflower. Because the cauliflower will let me know, being added in, will let me know how much gravy I need.
You don't have to leave it whole. You can chop it up. You can slice it. We like whole cauliflower because it kind of represents our meat. So
Gotcha.
we keep it whole.
So it gives you more of like a
Texture,
meaty
yeah.
texture that's like rich.
So I'm all about the person with feel, and you will only know how much salt you put in because you're feeling it yourself when you add the salt.
And you can always taste to ensure before you add more.
Yes.
We never taste. We just smell. I smell my food to
Wow.
see if it's where I need it.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, that's such a great like technique, and people don't realize some of the first like aspects of taste start by you smelling.
To see if it's where you need it to be.
Man, because learning recipes from my grandmother was really hard. I'm like, so how much was that? Jesus. I'm like, oh. I don't think that's a measurement. But I'm here for it.
How do I get Jesus to do
Right.
that?
Is he on the main line?
That's like asking my grandmother for recipes too. She's like 1 cup. And then I go over there and I'm like,
Which cup?
which cup? Oh, it's your coffee cup. That's not an actual cup.
Cup at all.
You want to take over and wash my hands right quick? Okay. You might need a little bit more broth.
So there is a benefit to having, you know, a duo because you guys can tag team.
Yes, that's always great. We balance each other very well. V obviously loves being in the kitchen, and I want to support her in any way I can in that. So whatever I can do to encourage her to feel as free as she can be in the kitchen, and we try to balance each other very well in that way. I feel like I'm her spice master, and she keeps me in my creative modes with trying new things and trying new dishes.
Yeah.
Ready?
Ready for the limes?
Okay, I'm gonna get out of here. I don't want to get in the way of the limes.
See, you got the smoking? And we're going to get this nice black char on the front of it.
And how long would you keep it on the heat?
You only have to do like 30 seconds. You will start to see by the rind that it started to turn a different color. Like it start to get a little bit more brown.
Just that charring, it just adds that depth of flavor to it.
Wow.
Yes.
And that smells amazing. The side of the lime now has like this ombre, like a color effect. You guys really like touch like all like the flavor elements in this dish, so I'm really excited to try because we have like heat, we have some acidity, and I have smoky with this as well.
The sweetness kind of comes from the tomatoes.
Yeah.
The ginger is kind of spicy.
And does like the ratio of like potato to cauliflower matter? Is just like go
You can
with
play
like
around. You can play around with that the way you have,
Okay.
because this portion
right
of
or
it could
wrong.
just be full of broccoli, potato, and whatever you have on hand.
This recipe and so many of the others that we've been learning about is use what you got. You can get creative. You can try new things and really like help reduce waste. And that's what we're doing here today.
We really want to encourage people to just, I mean, not, even if you're not interested in vegan, vegetarian, just to try to eat less meat. Just because vegetables really help us. It's really great for your body, and it just helps your digestion overall if you have more vegetables in your diet.
All right.
So we may be
we
ready.
me.
I love the dancing.
Yeah,
it's
we
always
get
a good
excited
sign in the
when the
kitchen. When it's almost time to eat, do a little wiggle.
I love food.
I know.
In the center.
Okay.
Cauliflower.
Oh no.
Beautiful. It smells so delicious.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I love that it'll add like brightness.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Wow. This is absolutely gorgeous. Oh, and there's that Maldon finishing.
They're finishing.
Got a little Salt Bay action.
So today, Amanda, we have aloo gobi, which is
Potatoes and cauliflower.
yeah. Hey friends.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
Um,
This is incredible. I'm so excited to try
aloo gobi.
aloo gobi.
Amanda, so look, we have the aloo gobi, and before you eat it, you have to squeeze the lime all over it. It's going to make the food taste
Alright,
so much better.
All right.
I'm so excited. I'm excited for it.
I'm so excited to taste. Oh yeah.
Perfectly blanched cauliflower you did.
It's so delicious.
Warm, thin.
The mustard seeds literally like crackle on your tongue. There's like such nice acidity. You get the heat at the end, kind of like in the back of your mouth.
Are we about like a medium heat?
Yeah, I would say so. You get the heat, you get that texture and like that burst of like the spices, the whole spices. I think people are afraid to cook with spices in this way, but this is absolutely delicious.
What I love about it too, when you called out the whole spices, the cumin seeds and the brown mustard seeds, that was like one of the things that I love the most because I love the pop, especially from the mustard seed.
I'm with you because it's like so unique to this dish. Like we've tried so many different things and seen so many like vegetable preparations and all these, but this is like so unique and just like adds a whole nother element to your dish, which is amazing.
Vegetarian.
And it's vegetarian and vegan,
And
right?
vegan.
It's
Oh
vegan.
yeah, vegan.
Yes.
This not only like nourishes our bodies. Talk about the ways food nourishes us in different ways.
So many. It's, I mean, from the time of consumption or to the time of the point it grows in the dirt to the time we consume it, to our bodies breaking it down on the chemical level, to it distributing throughout our body and allowing us to feel what we feel from the food and just overall just nourishing us in the most
Mentally.
helpful ways. So we should be intentional about the things that we choose to put into our bodies.
So I say good food produces good thoughts. Yes.
That's her motto.
That's
I
my
love
motto.
That's so
That's my
significant.
motto.
But thank you guys so much for not only sharing this recipe with me, but also like transporting me to India and all the things that you've learned and really like creating such a delicious meal. It's so amazing.
Thank
Yes,
you so much.
this is Indie Soul, and I'm pretty sure Suda and Didi would be proud of
Hopefully.
us. So I'm glad. You gotta let me know.
How you use it and what you use to make it versatile and how you change it up if you do try.
Oh, I'm definitely going to try. And I love that, you know, dinner one day can be breakfast the next day. I'm literally going to add an egg and maybe like a little piece of toast or something on the side. It's so delicious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
I'm gonna eat some more.
I think there's a bug in it.
Asking Detroit chefs and restaurateurs about food waste has led to some good eating and good conversation. We've learned about what we can upcycle or get another use out of, like cuttings, rinds, bones, and whey. Salt, sugar, and oil can preserve and transform ingredients. Nathan and V both talked about freezing sauces and other foods we can't use right away. In connecting with Alessandra and Nathan and sharing a meal with Brittiany and V, comfort can come from the families that aren't necessarily blood related and the larger communities we create through food. It takes a village. Until next time, make food, not waste.